Good afternoon, I'm Tommy Hawkins. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I have a story that's probably going to shock a lot of you, but these things happen in big cities. I was a teenager growing up in Chicago, watching the NBA on Saturday, a Zenith black and white television. This was before color television. So you know we go back. And the Fort Wayne Pistons were playing. And on that team was this tall, lanky, skinny, bald-headed man. And they called him the Bald Eagle. And I said, look at that guy. You know, he is incredible. George, let me describe George to this teenager sitting there. George had game. He could play the game. He could think the game. George had style. You ever watch George walk? He had this. George was hip, okay? So this black teenager in Chicago was saying, man, he's got game, he's got style. He's hip. George was skinny, just like I was. Tall, skinny guy. George was tough, really competitive. George was intelligent. They always talked about George graduating from Stanford. And I like that because he had that balance. You know, everybody used to think of athletes as, you know, guys who were stumped for an answer when someone said hello. Well, George disproved all of that. He could jump. I was a leaper. I liked the way he jumped. He had a quick smile, and he was witty. He was a star, and he was my idol. I didn't grow up wanting to be like Mike. I grew up wanting to be like George. He was my man. I first met him with Dolph Shays. I'm sure Dolph will be talking with you. They were playing, they were the starting forwards on the old Syracuse Nationals. And Syracuse Nationals played in what they call the War Memorial. It was always snowing and storming when you went there, and only 3,000 people could cram into this auditorium. Sometimes fights would break out, and they take the teams and put them in these holding rooms until the police could solve the melee that was going on there, and we could get out there and play basketball again. Well, I'm with the Lakers. It's my rookie year, and I'm guarding my idol. I couldn't breathe. I didn't care if he scored. I was going to watch him. I couldn't defend him. And Fred Schaus was a coach at the time, and he yelled out to me, he says, while you out there in all of your idolatry, play some defense or you're going home. And I said to George as I'm guarding him, I said, you know, I grew up really admiring you. You know, you're my idol. I remember those Saturday afternoon games. And George would have that, you know, he could have that little smirk on his face that I'm sure that the family has seen 1,000 times. And he'd say, you better play some defense because I'm killing you. Dolph Shays and George Yardley average between the two of them 50 points a game. George quick, the great shooter, the intensive one. Dolph Shays, the mover, constant mover. I used to say to him, Dolph, please, slow down, man. I'm tired. You're too old to be running like this the way you are. And he kept moving. He'd hit the outside jump shot. He'd penetrate. He knew the game. The two of them were magic together. And I loved coming into the NBA at that level and playing against those guys. It was a unique time because at that time there were only 8 teams in the NBA, 100 basketball players. And if you made it, you were a part of the elite. And I loved George Yardley. We'd see each other at banquets afterwards from time to time. He called me once at Dodger Stadium. He said, Tommy, I want to have my family out for a special dinner. It's a birthday celebration and everything. Can you help me set it up? And I helped him set it up, and we talked, and we reminisced about the good old days. And the family came out. Everybody had a wonderful time. And about a week later, I got this huge package that 2 people had to bring in, with a card from George that said, thank you for your constant support, thank you for all of you do, and thank you for who you are. And on this marble base is this huge Remington sculpture, which occupies a prime place in my family room today. And I walked past it, and I said, how you doing, George? I'm playing defense. I miss him, revered him, loved him. Thank you.